everybody, and welcome to Magical Learning Podcast. As you can see today, we have an author guest. Super excited to welcome Hilton Misso. And Hilton's written this amazing book, How to Manifest Success. And we're going to be talking about that today. But before we start, Hilton, we always love to say, how's your week been? So, how's your week been?
Well, my week remains busy. It remains with challenge, but it hasn't altered me being just great, fantastic,
Awesome. Love that.
enthused and excited about life.
Awesome. Oh, that's so good. So, Hilton, let's get straight into the questions because I loved your book and I love your story. So, can you share with our listeners and viewers a little bit about your journey to how you got to where you are now? Because you had a really interesting childhood and some very interesting things happened as you grew up.
Yes, well, I, like everybody else, have had and continue to have challenge, adversity, and hardship. I've come to learn that it is the raw material from which success is built. Now, as a youngster and a teenager in my higher primary school and my secondary school, I had all those issues and I felt terrible about it. And I felt as though I was the only person in the world who suffered these problems. I was skinny, and in my world, everyone would pick on skinny people. I was wishing I was fat because, to my world, people who were overweight or were never picked on, were never commented on, but it was me, the skinny guy, that was always picked on. So hardship became very much a daily thing for me, which led to my years between probably about 12 and 19 as being really my period of horror learning, right? And so having nothing uh, taught me to go within. It taught me, it allowed me access to God, as it were, to my real being. And that came through my going to a Christian school. And, and really the power within and God was the only person I had to turn to. So that gave me a source of energy and which I can't describe and which I didn't understand at a young age. But so my first 20 years of life was certainly hard. It was difficult. And I was at the lowest point you could imagine. I then grew into a world of work and business, but I was very focused in what I was going to do, and that story is told in the book. So I was very committed to doing what I had to do. I frame life in 25-year frames. 0 to 25, you do what your parents wish you to do. 25 at what they expect of you. 25 to 50, you do what the community expects of you and you participate in community, which I did. The 50 to 75, you've done your bit with family, you've done your bit with community, and now it's time you did your bit for yourself. So it's an era of enjoy life to its full extent, have fun. So, and I put things in the context of three things. We all want to have fun. We all want to have joy, and we all want to be happy. So it's fun, enjoyment, happiness. And fun is shallow and short and brief. Joy is something that is a little deeper, a little longer, a bit like watching a beautiful sunset, hearing a beautiful song. So my life in that 50 to 75 was all about that. And certainly I traveled the world, I did everything. And then 75 to 100 or 105, it's about the time to let go, give, and live to its deepest sense. And this is where happiness comes in. Happiness is deeper, it's meaningful, and it's your lifelong mission. So that is, and you look at the three words of let go, give, and live, take it to its deepest meaning, and that's what it's all about. So I do go some way in the book to talk about what that means, and that gives you purpose and it maintains your youthful spirit.
I love that answer. So let's move to your book, which is, yeah, How to Manifest Success. And I love that you've got 50 lessons in here around that. So, what was it that made you decide to write about this and share this with others?
Well, if you in my story, I talk about my poor academic skills and uh, being able to pass the grades through primary and secondary, and the disaster experience with grade 12, having to do it really 3 times to get into law school. And that was really reflected with my failure to read. Um, and I disliked any form of reading. And the novels I had to read at school, I got précis of it or summaries of it. And of course, that wasn't good enough to make the grade, of course, and hence my failure. But I guess that was an act of rebellion on my part because in primary school I was put up a grade, right? So so writing a book would be the most distant thing imaginable to me. So what happened was my father wanted to write his book. He spoke about a book all his life, and then for a long time he was working on it but never finished it. And by his bedside, when he was unconscious prior to him passing, I actually got his book and what he had done of it. And I felt a very strong emotive sense about me, about a need for me to finish my dad's book, right, as something to do for him. And then I thought about perhaps doing a generational book that I could pass down the line. So his bit, my bit, and so on. So I got started on my bit and then realized how crazy I was in terms of the complexity of my life from the perspective of my being a very simple, ordinary guy who really always has felt that way. Uh, that I'm thinking, wow, there's more to my life than I ever realized and appreciated. And the more I started to do my timeline story, the more convoluted and complex it became. So I guess I got buried in it. And then I decided to consult with coaches and so on in terms of guiding me through the whole process. And of course, then I thought, wow, there's something, this is a big exercise. Took me 2.5 years. And it was very, very big commitment because I went through volumes of edits I was doing on edits and on edits. And then my professional coach and I didn't agree on the style it should shape and the shape the book should take. Um, but at the end of the day, we had a little bit of that, and I actually had to surrender to your expert because I am the simple, ordinary guy, and I always looked at the third person, the person better than me, and when there's a showdown and a difficulty, I get all the opinions and I go with the best opinions. So naturally, I went with, and we got the 50 lessons approach, which I rather like. So there we are.
I love it, and thank you for sharing that. And I like that you had a bit of argy-bargy while you were creating that. So my next question is, can you tell our listeners and viewers about your manifestation method and how it's going to help people who are struggling? Because I reckon this is something that our listeners and viewers, there's a lot that are probably struggling at the moment. So I'd love for you to share a bit about your process.
So I guess from a young age, at the age of 19 or 20, where it all started was that through my involvement in self-development group, such as Junior Chamber International, JCI, and then my brother was in sales, so he'd do all the sales courses and personal development oriented towards sales. So I became very sales oriented because of my brother's influence and the personal development with JCI. So it was about sales. It was how to be able to get success. So there was a course called Dare to Be Great. and Dare to Be Great was a pyramid sales. Everyone was buying it to make a quick buck. I was too much of a Scrooge, refused to invest in it. I ended up getting it free, and when I got it, I thought, wow, no one's opened the package and really read the book or read the materials. And within the content of that, there was magic. Uh, there was success written all over it. So I made a pledge to myself, and I remember the day, the moment that I resolved to do that, that my lifetime passion and hobby was to study success and all the dynamics of success. What was the difference between the haves and the have-nots? So then I started a journey of reading all the books that was available, all the courses, doing whatever courses I could do, go to all the sales congresses that were held every year, where you got all the greats from Norman Vincent Peale to Zig Ziglar and you name them, every single one, including Neil Armstrong, the man who landed on the moon, I might add. He actually went on a world tour on the speaking gig looking to motivate people, but he only did that once. So I had the pleasure of actually meeting with him backstage at the Gold Coast when he did that tour. So that led me to then follow and do everything. And the one thing that really had the biggest impact on me out of everyone was a course on learning mind powers. So that was about understanding that your thinking is energy. And if you learn to manage that energy in such a way, a bit like the rays of the sun are spread. If you stand there, you'll get slowly sunburned. But if you put a magnifying glass and bring all those rays into one beam, it'll burn a hole through anything. So it stands to reason that we have a mind and we have thoughts. And if we have thoughts that are many, many thousands of thoughts a day scattered all over the shop, and they're all counter-opposed, crisscrossing everywhere, it's no wonder people have a state of confusion in their mind because they can't manage that thinking process. But if you could funnel your thoughts to what it is that you want, then your mind becomes a 3D printer and you can print whatever it is you want to. And hence our phrase, you can think to be anything you want to be. I've trademarked that phrase. Think to be healthy. It's again about mindfulness. It's about your thinking. Thinking is 70%, 80% of you getting healed when you see a doctor. Any doctor will tell you that mindset and mindfulness is 70%, 80% of the battle and answer to your recovery. So it stands to reason that one's efforts should go to mindfulness. So the system, I describe it as the Misso system in there. It entertains 5 channels, and mind you, I've studied a very broad spectrum. I've lived it for 60 years, and I've actually used it to manifest whatever I've wanted. And I often say, with all the humility in the world, that I really there's nothing that I've wanted for that I haven't got, right? And it's an amazing position to be. So I like to endorse the book when I see someone personal with the book. I hope that the ability to manifest will work for you, that it'll be a lifestyle and not just a one-off event. And that should be the objective of it. So did you want me to explain the pathways, the 5 pathways of
I'd
how
love
to...
that if you would, Hilton. That'd be awesome.
Yes. So there are essentially 5 pathways, and every single thing fits within those pathways. But these 5 pathways work for me. So the first of all is visualization. Very, very powerful. It's a technique you have to learn to develop. And we have courses in which we will teach how to practice visualization, how it works, why it works, and how powerful it really is, right? Then we have affirmations, which again is about the power of the affirmation, how it works, why it works, and what you need to do to practice it, how to practice it. So we will in the courses we supply to help you supplement what we've said in the book is to how to develop the art of affirmations, because that can change your belief system. It'll support your visualization. It's hugely powerful. Thirdly is the seedings, the feelings, the intentions, right? So you can't expect to get an apple tree if you plant an orange seed, right? In the same way, if you want a good outcome, all your intentions and thinking have to be good. It's got to be what you want to achieve. But if you're allowing all those other distracted thoughts to happen, and if it's diluted by thousands of other diverse thoughts, then it's not going to germinate, is it? It stands to reason. So it's the tree you plant, it's the orange tree. If you want orange trees, you plant orange seeds, right? And so it goes on. So that's the third element. The fourth element, and if you go to the deep analysis of the haves and the have-nots, so there's been huge amounts of research on that between the haves and the have-nots, and you can take it down to the twins. Identical twins in every way, shape, and form. They've had the same lives, same parents, same degrees, same everything. One has abundance, everything comes to him beautifully and easily. The other, not so. Has to work hard, almost touches the success and the abundance, but it keeps going away from him like the negative end of a magnet. The other one doesn't even have to try for it. He's the positive end of a magnet. It just draws to him. Beautiful, right? And why is that? But they're exactly the same. So when you get down to, and it's the fourth element I talk about, it's your belief systems, right? So it is very important to understand that belief is key, one of the keys. And belief sets up your magnetic energy. It can be the positive end of the magnet or the negative end. Now, the twin who claimed he had or she had was positive and had positive beliefs at a conscious level, sure, that was the consciousness telling him at a conscious level. But when you get down to the subconscious, and you start to interrogate your subconscious, and there are techniques to do that, you then unpack certain key beliefs relevant to abundance, right, that he didn't have at a subconscious level. So that's a negative influence, right? And whilst a negative influence is there in the belief system, it's a negative energy. It's that push away energy, right? So even if he gets the abundance, it's only momentary because it's gone again as quickly as he got it, right? So the beauty of that is that doing your visualizations, your affirmations, and your seedings, you can change your belief systems, right? And it's been proven in the case of the twins that when the subconscious belief was changed, right, magic started to happen, right? And like a 3D printer, it prints out whatever you want. So then the fifth, and I say with the greatest weight of all, because all the knowledge in the world, all the help in the world, all of that, you can do all the practice or do all of that. You know all of that. And the most frequent answer you get when you explain something to someone, already know that, already tried that. Doesn't work. Oh, really? So that's your belief system pretty deep and entrenched. Okay. The fifth step is you learn to do it. You do it as a daily discipline until you just is like rubbing your teeth and every other cleansing activity you do in your life, right? So you do it because you have to do it, right? You do it and you do it and do it. There's no giving up, right? No good saying that I've done for 3 months, it never worked. No, it does work. You just didn't do it long enough because you've got some deep-seated problems in your subconscious, which takes much longer to move. Now, you've got to accept that it hasn't worked because you've got a belief system within you that's talking you into that. So we can call that the little trickster or the little demon. And we all have that little demon in us. Don't let him trick you into believing it doesn't work. So you endure it until it works. And if it takes a lifetime, so be it. Do it
I
and
love
keep
that.
trying. So that's the 5 keys, right?
I
And
love that, Hilton. I was going to say, we were discussing before we started recording about your morning ritual, and I reckon that's actually a really great share for our listeners and viewers. Would you mind sharing how you start your day?
Yeah, I first of all go to bed with a good mindset, right? So it's very important. Yeah, and sleep is pivotal to everything. It's when healing happens. It's when your mind has the opportunity to dispose of all the excesses we might have had running in our head, and it's a wonderful opportunity to go retiring all that feeling, right? In other words, leaving that behind because you don't want to roll up in yesterday and the past and allow the past to keep repeating itself, right? So we tend to keep repeating the past and trying to solve the past instead of looking at the future and continually rehearsing the future. So that's very important on retiring to talk about the optimistic and feel the optimistic future, or just empty your mind completely so you can rest. Have a good sleep. And, it's the 7, 8 hours a night, which is precious. You've got to have that. And at least 4 or 5 nights a week, good rest and sleep. So my routine daily is to get up anywhere. If I have a moment that I can't sleep and I'm struggling with it, well, I'll get up and do my 90 minutes of meditation, 60 minutes or 90 minutes. And when you meditate, right? So I learned to meditate at a Vipassana retreat where you didn't talk for 10 days. So that is the toughest thing that I've ever done in my life. You're allowed to speak to your master once a day, and I'd be crying every night with pain because you have to meditate 12 hours a day and there's a regimented way of doing things. So that got me quite disciplined in that short time, ready to say, okay, I'm doing this. I've broken through that really hard phase, and now I'm going to adopt that as my daily routine, never to give it up. So I do my 90 minutes, 1 hour to 90 minutes, usually 90 minutes. Then I'll follow that with another 45 minutes of stretches. So I have a gym at home, which I work doing more stretching and power plate work, etc. And then I'll go for a half strength coffee or a green tea. I'll take my little dog and I'll be on my own to reflect and read. But that reflective time is so valuable. It's beautiful. It's quiet, where you are now totally absorbed in yourself, fully charged in your better future, and you can take on anything. And that's my daily process every day. I can highly commend it. It takes discipline, but everything, you get clarity, you're freed of ambiguity, your communication with people is so much better, and your energy levels are so much better.
You're a walking testament because our listeners and viewers may not know how old you are. Um, you're 80, from what I understand, which is awesome.
We had a little debate with someone. I did a podcast or a talk with, in fact, yesterday. And she asked me about the age thing and so on. And she said, well, are you 79 or 80? And I said, well, do you remember the year 2000? I said, there was a lot of debate about when the year 2000 started. Was it 1999 or was it 2000? Because theoretically, you started your 2000th year at the start of 1999, right? So, and when 2000 clicked over, you're now the first day of 2001. So I said, take that thought with you, and I ask you the question. Do you think I'm 79 or do you think I'm 80?
I
I
think you
turned
just,
80 on the 14th of December,
I
right?
love it.
And she responded, oh, well, I think you are living your 80th year. You're quite right. So I'll write in the article that you're 80. You're living your 80th year,
I was
which
going
is
to say, Hilton, I just think you're awesome. So the age is not the thing, but I just think you're extraordinary, your enthusiasm, your energy for life, and you know, and it leads me into the next question, which is, what you've written about how to manifest success. And I'm really curious because you are a walking testimony to success. It's not just financial, is it? Tell us a little bit about your definition for success.
I think it's a matter of being able to materialize anything you want as a lifestyle, right? So it's that ability to, call it magic, call it a 3D printer, call it what you like, right? But it's made up of those five elements. It becomes your true nature. And really, whether you do or you don't, you learn to take a very passive approach to everything, not be so serious. And mind you, for 60 years, I've been sort of told many, many things in my life, from the good, bad to the ugly, but so I can handle anything. So some people would say, "Oh, look, Hilton, you're so tough that if a human could rust, you'd be the first to rust." Very uncharitable statement to make of me, but I guess that was the discipline and the seriousness. And I spent 60 years I suppose, try to enable myself to earn the right to get the stripes on my shoulder, to be able to write a book, to be able to get up and speak. I've always wanted to public speak, but I've been too shy, lacked confidence. Why would anyone want to listen to a simple, ordinary guy like me? And when a person looks at my skinny physique and all that, why would I want to follow him? Because I've always been faulted for that. So I felt I had to earn it. But now I got to say with all honesty and authenticity that really I was deluded by believing that I needed to do that, because I never needed to do that. I always had it, right? It's just that my belief system was wrong. So here I'm advocating it, but I've had to live the tough 60 years to say, hey, a kid 20, yeah, mate, you've got unbelievable future. And people talk about, oh, but society's changing too fast. Let me say that change is the thing that brings opportunity. If we were stayed and locked in a basket of traditional ways, then the wealth, the ability to succeed, whatever that may be for you. And I talk about wealth, not financial. I'm talking about it tends to be locked away to the secluded few because nothing changes. But everything's changing at a fast rate. Even those who are adapting to change are losing it, right? So the newbie always has the right to, the ability to take it. So you've got to be very receptive with your intuition. You've got to be very quick to respond to a situation, and you've got to have that belief, right? So all of the traits of all the pathways of the Misso system, it will help. So opportunity doesn't last but a moment. You can't go to ponder it too long. So it's that intuitive skill you need to develop. It's a very, very valuable skill.
So then I'd love for you to share, if you wouldn't mind, a situation where you used that intuition and you got a really good outcome.
Probably my best story on that would be I'd go to lots of self-developments, right? And people go there wanting to learn a volume of things. And I say, look, you might have to go 1 year, 2 years, 3 years to personal development seminars looking for that one gem you haven't yet found. Now, you can choose to say it doesn't work and therefore you give it up, or you can choose to say, no, I'll keep searching until I find it. So here I am always looking for that gem, and always look to make sure that I have one takeaway from everything. Even though it's very simple and I already knew that, you still take at least one and focus just on one, and then try and make that work for you until the next one, right? And then it all goes into your bank of knowledge and experience and your intuitive skill. So that one personal seminar I went to, the guide challenged us, every single one of us. Now, you are going to wake up at one moment of the day, middle of the night, whatever, and you're going to think you're always looking for opportunity on the horizon. Isn't it a truth? Opportunity is never at home, it's at the horizon. You got to go far to find it. You got to go here, there, and never look under your nose. So he challenged everyone there to look directly under your feet, right? So I call that I have a 2 o'clock hour. I always went to bed with pen and paper. I still do, but I now use the phone. And if you have a brilliant thought, you capture it because it'll be gone in the morning. And to say you'll remember in the morning doesn't work. You have to note it. Put it down, but learn to go back to sleep, but don't let it keep you awake for the rest of the night, right? You capture the idea, go back to sleep. So there, 2 o'clock in the morning, I was at my home my then home, and I went directly under the bed from the sheet, from the pajamas I was wearing to the sheet, down, 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 down. Then I got to, and you look at every fabric, every tile, and then you go to Mother Earth. Then you start to go Mother Earth and go a meter wider, and keep going in the circumference, right? And gospel truth, this is what I did. Analyzing everything, I get to 500 meters. And there's a block of land, which is like 15 blocks on a major corner, diametrically opposite the hospital. A builder had bought it, cut it up into 15 blocks, and was going to build house and land packages, but he preferred to just sell the land to make the profit. And it'd been sitting there for 2 years, hadn't sold a thing. I said, holy jeez, I'll just buy the whole lot. So I rang him to buy it. 8:30, start a business, bang, first call I made. He said, oh, Hilton, you wouldn't believe it. He said, I've had this red thing for 2 years, can't sell it. And in the last 2 weeks, I've sold everything all but 2 blocks, the 2 worst blocks. I immediately prayed to God and said, oh, please beat the 2 corner blocks. They said, they're the useless 2 corner blocks. I said, I'm taking it, right? And the story goes quite long, but that was, and there's a much longer story to it. But that single thing led me to get into childcare. And childcare was the best thing I did. Mind, the best thing I did was law because it opened so many doors. But you see, one complements another and it complements another, right? So my interest in property, my interest in law, all those things facilitated it. But that one seminar was the thing that introduced me to childcare. And I had tried many other things on the corner block, didn't work. And then I got into childcare. Long story again, but that one exercise brought me a 9-digit investment. Like, that is absolute gospel truth. It was unbelievable.
That is an awesome story. I love, 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 love that story. So that leads me, Hilton, to my next question, which is, when you were a child, when you were sort of a teenager, what's the one bit of advice that you wished people had shared with you that could have really started you off on this journey, perhaps earlier, or just could have helped you in your life's journey?
You've got to go deep within yourself, right? You've got to learn to talk to your maker, right? Now, whatever your faith is, right? Um, there's your faith and religion and there's spirituality about the real you, right? So there's not a person in the world who won't deny that you're more than the human body. You're a soul, right? And what's your soul? That's not your mind. It's separate from your mind. So your soul is that awareness, right? So I don't want to get deep into the subject of philosophy, but to keep it simple, the real you. You know the real you is not your body. It's not the things people call you, name call you, right? It's not what your parents might have built you up too much or underbuilt you, right? Whichever way it went, it doesn't matter what they thought and felt. It's about what you. So reach to yourself and learn. Everyone's into this Wi-Fi. Which is more powerful, Wi-Fi or hardwire? So your communication with God is Wi-Fi. Can be weak because you can get interruptions and breaks and all that. So I latched onto long before Wi-Fi arrived the concept of being hardwired to God, right? And that God exists here and God works through you. It was a principle I learned in my Christian school. Now, it can be any faith. they'll teach you the same thing, right? And I'm supportive of all faiths, right? Um, because they all stand for family values and they stand for authenticity and the doing of good, and not the good just for that individual and that individual's family. It's for whole and it's for the globe.
Thank you for sharing that. Now, I'm mindful of time, so we're going to go to the last question, which is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners and viewers that you think would be helpful?
Look, I think there's a lot in my book. I talk about the next 25 years. There's a lot, and that you can reach that through my site called Think to Be. That's think numerical to be.com.au. And that will lead you to everything we're doing. Think to Be Healthy is probably the biggest thing we're doing. It covers health, wealth, and wisdom. It covers courses in relation to mindfulness to enable you to enable you to have an instruction manual which you were never handed at school, and how to manage your mind and your thoughts and your thinking, to be able to make it like a 3D printer so that you are able to manifest your better future through mindfulness, right? So it's like making magic, but magic, but it's a 3D printer. It's simple. We all know what a 3D printer, out of nothing, it produces. So using the 5 pathways, you can produce whatever it is that you want, including what it is that you really, really want, right? So you still need to commit daily to the exercises. And my point on the point of doing, remember that the best athletes, the best singers, the best celebrities who are famous practice their art every day for 5, 6, 7 hours a day. Pavarotti, the great singer, had a saying that if he didn't practice for one day, missed one day, he would feel it. If he didn't practice for 2 days in a row, his wife would detect it, because that really finesse point has diminished. It's dropped. And then if he didn't practice for 3 consecutive days, his audience would pick it. So who are we to say that we've got it, we don't need to practice anymore, when the best of the best have to do that every single day? So with all of everything, remember, you got to develop discipline to do every single day.
What great advice, Hilton. So, for everyone, highly recommend How to Manifest Success. And Hilton, it's been an absolute pleasure hearing some of your stories. You're so humble because you've had an extraordinary career. And I'd absolutely encourage anyone that is entrepreneurial, interested in business, and the whole manifesting, super important. Absolutely would recommend Hilton's book. It's a great read. And I love that you've got so much like personal stories, but also you've shared such great ways of thinking and being able to achieve this. So, Hilton, can I say thank you so much for joining us today on the Magical Learning Podcast? And to all of our listeners and viewers, have a magical day.